Now back to the show. This is The Law Show on CL 650.
And welcome back to the show. We're talking about immigration law. We have Rudy Kisher and Alex Stojkovic from MKS Law in downtown Vancouver. You are near the old Burke's building downtown, right?
Right next
to it. Yep.
And how are you liking the new digs?
We're loving it. It's great. It's close to the water. It's close to downtown. It's fantastic.
Give a view?
More space.
We do have a view. We do have a view, yeah.
You miss Yaletown,
now.
don't you?
But
Come on,
we
admit
do.
it.
We do a little bit.
Yaletown is a beautiful spot.
vibe.
Yeah, Yaletown has a lot going
Especially in the summer on the patio.
Yes.
My wife, though, reminds me every day that I'm next to Burke's.
Those little blue boxes are a huge hit. Or the big blue boxes. It could be big or small, doesn't matter. So, all right, let's get into passports. And this is something I had no idea could happen. People can fly overseas and not get back to Canada even though they're Canadian citizenship. Explain what ETA is and how people can get caught in this.
So in March of 2015, the federal government, as part of a comprehensive plan that was a comprehensive border agreement with the United States.
So more integration.
Rolled out something called an electronic travel authorization. And who the electronic travel authorization applied to are citizens of countries that do not require visas.
Right.
Okay? So I say that because we're not talking about people from China or from Brazil or from Russia or from Eastern Europe that required visas. We're talking about people who've never required visas to come to Canada. Japan, the UK, France, Germany, Italy, the European Union. All of a sudden, those people needed to take an extra step. They had to apply for an electronic travel authorization.
So is that just a go online and that's it? Register?
For most people, that's all it is. And it's actually a relatively straightforward procedure.
$7 in 2 minutes, probably, right?
For most people. Now, if you answer yes to the question that if you've been convicted of a criminal offense, it may take longer than that.
Hello, MKS Law. Is that how it goes?
So, but because of this extra step, airlines are now not allowed and can be fined if they allow people onto airplanes who don't have these travel authorizations. And for those people who travel to the U.S., we aren't affected by this because American passport holders are exempt coming into Canada, and Canadian passport holders are exempt from the U.S. version of this called ESTA. We don't have to go through this, but everyone else does. So here's how this has affected Canadian passport holders. Essentially, the only people who cannot get ETAs, there's three groups of people who cannot get ETAs. Mm-hmm. People who require visas because they have a visa that they had to apply for.
So someone from China.
Exactly. People that are permanent residents of Canada. So that means they have to have a permanent resident card to prove this. Mm-hmm. And finally, Canadian citizens. But the only way the airline can be sure that you are a permanent resident or a Canadian citizen, and so that they cannot let you on without this electronic travel authorization, is if you have a valid Canadian passport or permanent resident card. So there's been a delay in the enforcement of this until recently, but now it's been fully enforced. And we saw the first Christmas where there was an impact.
So paint the story for us. So give us a description.
Woman comes on to her flight. She has not bothered to, and this is a call that I had over Christmas. She has not renewed her Canadian passport because her French passport was still valid and she was visiting her family in France.
And I know a lot. I know this for a fact. A lot of people fly to Europe on their EU passport or their British passport because they go to the express line when they get there.
Sure,
right?
Yeah,
sure,
it's natural.
Yeah,
it's natural. So she goes to board the plane. The airline is now required to ask, "Where is your electronic travel authorization?" She says, "What do you mean? I'm a Canadian citizen." "Oh, do you have a Canadian passport?" She says, "No, I haven't renewed it." Answer, we can't let you on the plane.
But
Phone call to MKS.
But couldn't they go and register for the ETA or the ETA thing?
They
No,
can't,
because they're Canadian
they don't qualify
citizens.
for
They
an
don't
ETA
qualify.
because you're a Canadian citizen. You can only get an ETA if you're a foreign national.
No, but they have a say this woman's got a French passport.
Yeah, but the question, well, on the ETA, are you a Canadian citizen or permanent resident? The minute you answer yes to either of those,
Where's your passport?
well, you don't
That's
qualify
right.
for an ETA.
You don't
Sorry.
qualify.
Oh, okay. So that's the catch-22.
That's the catch-22. So what people have had to do is emergency calls to the Canadian Embassy in Paris, emergency call to the Canadian High Commission in London, get an emergency passport, pay a lot of money,
Or they let them on sometimes. I mean, sometimes they'll waive the requirement and actually let them on. But, I mean, the
But
Canadian
there's
bar...
been some very stressful moments.
So what is
for
your
these
advice
people.
to anybody that's traveling that has 2 passports? Always take your Canadian passport?
Oh, you need your Canadian passport now to come back. 100% you
keep
have to
your
have
Canadian passport current. We have 10-year passports now. Take advantage of that. Go and get it.
I have a story. I got my wife and kids their passports, and we were off by a year, and they were able to get the 10-year. Mine was a year before, so I only had a 5-year. So I just had to go about 3-4 months ago to get my 10-year passport. It was the fastest thing I've ever had done. I was in and out of there in 20 minutes, and they sent it registered mail to my house in a few days. It was a breeze. There's no reason not to go. It's pretty simple.
No, it's a big mistake for people not to think that they can somehow skirt the rule. I mean, the Canadian Bar Association, we wrote a letter complaining about this because it
hasn't been publicly...
well, that was one of our complaints, is the fact that...
There's no publicity around this.
There's been a little bit, but not enough.
Not enough.
It's the ETA, they should have done way more. I mean, it's affecting people, unfortunately, because of the lack of publicity. And on top of that, it actually creates sort of two citizens because American dual citizens, right? If you're American Canadian, you don't have this issue.
No, you're not affected by this.
Because you can get off the U.S. passport.
All right, immigration levels. There's been some changes. Obviously, when the Liberals came in, they made this promise to bring the refugees in. That was fulfilled, and are they swinging away from that now?
Well, we've had them published, and I'm going to let Rudy take it from them.
I mean, I don't think the overall level number, I mean, McCallum was talking a lot about increasing it dramatically.
105,000 or something like that?
Well,
305,000?
He was talking about 400. Like, he wanted the number to go really high, but he's stuck around the same level it was last year, somewhere around 300,000 is the goal. We've seen the economic categories come up in terms of the amount that's expected, and we've seen a dramatic decrease in refugees, especially the government-sponsored refugees. So whereas last year the government-sponsored category was 24,000, this year, they're only going to bring in 7,500, which is a 70% decrease on that.
And that's kind of swinging back to the way the Conservatives did it. They put so much more emphasis on economic applicants, right?
And so we've also seen sort of a decrease in live-in caregivers, so that number's going down, but an increase in spousal applications coming up, so that's come up. But overall, as you said, it's much more sort of more to a 57%, I think, it's a 57-43 split now, I think.
So it's quite different, though. That I mean, there's still a pronounced difference. I mean, the Liberals, when they were in power last time, under both Paul Martin and Jean Chrétien before that, moved towards a 60-40 model where the economic categories would be 60% and the remaining categories, the humanitarian categories, would be 40. The Conservatives had moved that to a 70-30 level, and we were getting really close to that goal where 70% were economic and 30% were these other categories. And that's where you saw the problems with spouse and other categories. These backlogs.
Yeah.
Now you see us reverting back to how things were, say, 10 or 12 years ago with this number almost 58%, 42%, so closer to that 60-40.
So as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, new year, lots of changes. And I suspect at the end of the year when we do our final show of the year, you'll look back and say, boy, did we ever go through a lot of changes. It never ends, does it?
No, that's the exciting thing about the line of work we have, and another good reason always to check if I think one of the biggest mistakes, one of the saddest stories you often hear is people coming to your office saying, "Well, this is the way my friend did it 5 years ago." And you're like, well, that doesn't apply today.
Yeah. And that's get the advice.
Yeah,
even just for the lottery situation you mentioned with parents, you can apply online, but no bother. Don't bother unless it's worth your while.
Yeah, I don't think it's worthwhile getting up your hopes, your parents or your grandparents' hopes that they're going to be coming, their grandchildren's hopes when you may not qualify.
MKS Law, what's the easiest way to get in touch with you?
I think www.vancouverlaw.ca.
On our website is the easiest, www.vancouverlaw.ca.
How did you get that website? That was...
My partner is very fast. My partner, as usual, way ahead of the curve.
Yes, I took that website in 2002.
Well done.
Yeah.
VancouverLaw.ca. A, right, not .com. Okay, thank you very much, Rudy Kisher and Alex Stojkovic from MKS Law. Welcome to a new year, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you, Zach.
I'll speak to you next time on CL 650.